In 1937, unions set up the Federation of Labour to represent unions nationally. Bob Tutaki of the Shearers' Union was the only Māori delegate at its first conference. In the 1980s, a Māori committee was set up for the FOL. Some Māori unionists were not happy at being underrepresented in unions. They had thought about setting up separate Māori unions, but eventually decided against this, and instead demanded a better deal for Māori in the existing union movement.
To the union movement that is a monocultural movement, to say that it can't just have a class analysis unless it also has an analysis about colonisation.
The Pākehā-dominated unions, communist and socialist parties and organisations, were reluctant, however, and did little to address these contradictions. And in fact, some would hinder Māori attempts to confront these racial and class contradictions. One of the most blatant examples was when the trade union leader and president of the Socialist Unity Party, Bill Anderson, who along with other members of the union called the police on Māori activists in the union over a pamphlet written by Māori women union members that was criticising the union for racism and for benefiting from capitalist exploitation in the Pacific. Bill Anderson saw this article as an unprincipled attack on the movement and, rather than address the racism being challenged, responded by shutting down the Polynesian Resource Centre, which was a key organising space for Māori and Pacific activists. Within these parties and organisations, they recognised that imperialism is the highest stage of capitalism. However, what they overlooked is that imperialism is simultaneously colonialism compounded, and any resistance to capitalism that disregards colonialism is therefore insufficient and, in effect, objectively reactionary. Colonialism was the initial historical process of violent appropriation and control over land, resources and peoples, laying the material foundations for capitalist development. Capitalism did not abolish these colonial relations, but rather universalized and systematized them, extending forms of expropriation into a global economic order where domination operated less through direct territorial conquest and more through market forces, wage labour, property relations, and the extraction of surplus value on a world scale. Imperialism represents the highest and most complex stage of this historical process. It is colonialism compounded, where global monopolies, finance capital, debt mechanisms, and institutionalized economic domination consolidate control beyond territorial occupation, embedding older forms of colonial rule within an integrated capitalist world system. Thus, imperialism is not only the highest stage of capitalism, but also the most advanced form of colonial domination, the globalization of colonial relations under the logic of capital accumulation.